Yeah, and we do have a structural deficit, and I haven't been. Obviously, I'm learning as I go along. I came into this. I went to one meeting like this where there's a lot of lobbyists, and I'm talking about all the changes I'm going to make, and then one of them speaks up and says, "Well, somebody ought to inform Jeff that you hardly have any control over the budget at all. It's just a small little pot. The governor controls all this, and so it's tough." One thing I've seen, watching and learning, is that the state has very antiquated computers and equipment and infrastructure. And what we found in the city is that we have the one-time money and we have ongoing money. Ongoing money is very precious. I mean, I'll trade $2 of one-time money for $1 of ongoing money when you're running this kind of a thing, because then you can predict into the future that ongoing money. I think it's costing us a lot of money in manpower, the ongoing dollars, because we have such antiquated and outdated computers and infrastructure. A couple examples is, from what I've heard, I don't have empirical data on this, but I've heard it from a couple sources, is that some criminals' past history and past offenses aren't being held against them because the computer systems from the cities and the counties and stuff that's feeding in to the state or the county, they're not talking to each other. So somebody may be up for a second domestic violence conviction, but he's only being charged as a first-time offender because they can't see this other thing because our computers are so outdated. The CPS computers are so insanely outdated that they literally they're taking a call, they're making notes. Then they have to take those notes, they have to transcribe it on something else, and then ultimately they have to take that and type it into the computer. So think if you had a computer system that did that right the first time. I mean, we put a man on the moon, and the things they're doing with computers now are amazing. That how many people, I'm glad they're hiring all the people they do. I mean, it's a tragedy what's going on at CPS. But even just the growth curve of people being able to handle more cases, calling them in, rather than sit there and spending all their time writing this down, then transferring. Those kinds of investments, I believe, in infrastructure can save the state long-term money. Now, when I've talked to other people about this, they say that, well, legislators, conservatives especially, are very apprehensive about that because they think that you're just going to end up, and I understand how they're scared of it, they just think you're going to end up spending that money anyway. And we know how that is at the federal government. I mean, they save any money, they don't necessarily want to because then their budget goes down and then they just transfer it somewhere else. But somebody needs to get a hold of that and make the state more efficient. We as a city in Chandler, another thing we did, well, what we did and what Gilbert did and some cities did is actually made cuts back when the recession hit. And then you had other cities, Phoenix and other people, who they did furloughs and they did this and that. And you do a furlough, all you're doing is just delaying until you bring those hours back on the same problem you had before. You haven't realized any efficiencies whatsoever in how to save money. We cut over 10% of our positions, had a nice, we didn't fire them, it was voluntary, but they had a nice exit plan, and we haven't brought those jobs back on. We've realized we didn't really need them. I always use the example of it's nice, if you're going to have swimming lessons is important. Synchronized swimming lessons really isn't. You have to make these choices when you're coming down to that, and we made choices like that. We realized that we were just buying new vehicles for no reason. We had on computers and vehicles, it expired, after like 3 or 4 years, and they just got a brand new one no matter what. There was no looking at, okay, is the vehicle still in good shape? We had people who were driving 2 days a week for 3 hours a day, each of those 2 days, and they had their own vehicle. So we vastly revamped our vehicle pool system. saved millions of dollars then. We're saving tons of money, hundreds of thousands in ongoing money a year, because it's less mechanics you need, it's less, all these different things. And those kinds of efficiencies is what I think the state could still realize if somebody got in there and looked around. I'm not going to kid myself and think, because I've already had numerous people tell me that, you're one of a lot of people, and if you make it down there and you're a freshman and you don't have much power, but I'm not going down there to be everybody's best friend. I'd like to go down there to shake things up a little bit. I get my identity pretty much from being a business person. That's how I identify myself. So I hope that and think that that'll give me a little bit more freedom to be me, which I think I've done a pretty good job on council of remaining myself and just being a real person and not get caught up in the, hey, I'm so-and-so and this is what I think. So hopefully that answered it.